Hi, and welcome to the A Little Spoon Kitchen. Today we are going to be making chocolate chip cookies, but they are special because we are going to add something that I am obsessed with and have been obsessed with for years now, toasted milk powder. Takes about an hour to do the toasted milk powder and then maybe 15 minutes to mix up the cookies. And then they chill for 24 hours. I promise it's worth it. They're delicious. And let's go ahead and get started now. Let's go. Okay, so first things first, I have butter that came right from the refrigerator. If you want to go ahead and take it out a little early, you are welcome to. It needs to be just softened. We're not going for refrigerator cold because you need to cream it with sugar later, so it has to be the proper texture, and you are not looking for room temperature butter that is far, far too warm. If you were to stick a thermometer into your butter and it's softened, it should be somewhere around 64 degrees Fahrenheit. I apologize, I don't know what that is in Celsius. For any of my friends who use metric, please go ahead and pop that into the chat so that when people are watching this, they can see what that is. But it'll be somewhere around there. Room temperature is going to be 68 and higher, and then your refrigerator is obviously much colder. It'll be probably somewhere in the 40s. Yes, Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this big block of my European style butter because I also really like European style butter. It's got a much higher fat content, which I appreciate. I think it just makes everything creamier and richer. It tastes better. And I'm going to break this up into the proper amount, okay, which I need a knife for because I can't break this off with my hands. It'd be too big. We are going for 12 tablespoons or 170 grams. It's about 3/4 of a cup. Now this is going to sit out. I told you guys earlier that we add toasted milk powder to these cookies, which is basically like brown butter on crack. It's super, super concentrated flavor of a brown butter. So basically, when you toast butter for brown butter, you're toasting the milk solids in this butter to get that really nice, rich, caramelized, toasty flavor. And now we're just going to actually toast milk solids because that's what milk powder is. It's just the milk solids. And then that dry ingredient can get added to anything. Here I am already talking about it. Let's see. So I need 170 grams. Look at that. Oh my God, I'm amazing. 170 on the dot. With only one extra slice. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, this brick, this big, it might come to the correct temperature while we are toasting the milk powder because we do have some time. But I would prefer to like absolutely make sure that it gets there. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just separate these pieces out a little bit so that it's not one big brick. The more surface area that you have surrounding your pieces of butter, the more that room temperature air can kind of suck some of that cold temperature out of the butter and it will soften faster. So we're gonna just do that and we're gonna set that aside. That's our butter for the recipe. And we're gonna go ahead and get started on the toasted milk powder. Is everybody with me? Yes, today's cookie day. Cookie stream, yeah. Okay, everybody's with me? Good. Okay, let's do some toasted milk powder. Now you can use, I actually brought out a bunch of different milk powders, and I'm going to talk about them while we are making our toasted milk powder. Today I'm just using Nido, okay? It's just dry whole milk. I like using the whole milk powders more than I went and purchased this one. I purchased this one literally for the stream because I don't usually keep this. So this is non-fat, but I do prefer whole milk, and that's what I'm going to be using today. It is a little bit trickier to toast, but I think that the flavor and the added fat and the added protein are just better when you're using it as an ingredient. Okay, let's do. Now I'm gonna toast more than I would. I don't know why I put this on on a scale. I'm gonna toast more than what I would normally toast. Like I said earlier, I like to bulk cook this. So like you only need, I believe it's a 1/4 cup for this recipe. I'm obviously toasting more than that. But let's do about there. If you toast less, so if you toasted like the exact amount necessary for a recipe, it will go faster. Just because, again, like more surface area, it's not like big clumps. You're not trying to get like the inside heated just as much as whatever is touching the pan. So if you have like a single layer on the pan, it will toast faster than it would if you were not doing it in bulk the way I do it. But I like, again, like I said, it takes so long to make it that I like to cook it in bulk. And I just kind of add that time in, and then I can make this recipe. So like this is already pre-made. Well, I guess since does he have the camera on? The side camera? You do? Okay, so it's on this. Actually, let me get a big guy here so I don't pour pre-toasted milk powder into my milk powder. I don't know if you guys can see. So like this is essentially what it's gonna come to. So it starts at this color, it's gonna go to this color. And I can just grab this right out of my pantry and toss it right into my cookies. So I could essentially make these cookies exactly as long as it would take to make a normal batch of cookies, obviously minus the chill time. But I can make this anytime that I want without having to do this because I've kind of pre-made this pantry item that I then keep. Okay, so let's get this going. We're going to have the power down at like, I think like 2 on this guy, maybe 1.5. For those of you who are cooking this on your stovetop, you're gonna want it to be at like medium-low as it heats, and then probably turn it down closer to low as long as it's toasting, and as long as you can see that you're getting some brown color underneath in the bottom, then you're gonna be good to go. You don't want it to be too hot, because if it gets too hot, then it will actually start to burn, and the pieces will really start to clump and they're harder to break up later. But it's just a gentle toast. We're just relaxing. This is kind of like if you were making a roux or like some kind of gravy or something like that. Like you just stay here, live in this space, listen to an audiobook, do what you gotta do, and just like hang out at your stovetop for a little bit. For somebody who was concerned about how long it took earlier, you can do a plant-based milk powder, and it will toast in 15 to 20 minutes. Now, it's not going to taste, obviously, exactly the same as if you had a whole milk or a non-fat, like dairy milk powder, and it won't give as much of that textural difference. It will help a little bit, but it's not going to give it as like dense of a center as it would if you were using milk powder, but it's an easy substitution if you wanted to do something faster. If you wanted to just like make it all in one go and make it and go faster. I prefer using coconut milk powder. Here we go. I got this at Walmart. You probably can get this at Walmart too, hopefully. Let's see if we can see that there. Wait a minute. I can't see that. Can you read? Can that be read? Yeah, okay. It looked like the ingredients, because I'm looking at a TV that's like across the house, and it looked like I was showing the ingredients, and I was like, where's the camera? And it's up there. I was like, it doesn't make sense that it's showing the other side. I just couldn't see it. You can read it? Okay. So this is sold at my Walmart. You can probably also get it at like a Whole Foods or something like that, where they have like specialty or like a lot of variety of like flours and baked good style ingredients and things like that. Milk powders. Yeah. So you've got this. This I got on Amazon. It's oat milk powder. You could use this. It's also fairly high in protein, but it's not high in fat. So that's kind of where I said, like, you're not going to get the textural addition that you would if you were using even like a coconut milk powder or one of our dairy milk powders. So the cool thing about toasted milk powder, and just milk powder in general, honestly, this is actually, I'm pretty sure that it's been talked a lot about in the press. Christina Tosi from Milk Bar uses milk powder in her cookies. And a lot of professional chefs and bakers will use milk powder in their like cakes and things like that. And the reason is because it adds extra protein. And when you add extra protein to a baked good, it creates extra structure to your cookie. So you get better rise, you get like a better, softer texture. It allows for better hydration of your flour. There's like a whole bunch of different stuff that kind of goes into it. And so in cases where you want to have like a richer, denser, softer, gooier kind of texture, then adding milk powder is gonna immediately give you that. So that is that. And then I was like, well, what if we like toasted it and we got that brown butter flavor? So in addition to getting that extra protein and that extra structure, we're also going to get that extra flavor. So I said earlier, when you are browning butter, you're browning the milk solids in your butter, and this is straight up milk solids, and we are going to brown them, and then we can use them in place of that ingredient. So where somebody would have to, there's like, I think there's something like between, I think it's like half a tablespoon or something like that. It's 1 to 2% of butter is milk solids. So you're getting like half of a tablespoon of this in an entire stick of butter, which is a quarter cup of butter. I believe that's like 57.5 grams. Or no, 113.5 grams is a quarter cup. So if you are browning that on your stovetop, you are only getting like a tiny bit of those toasted milk solids. This way, I can add a quarter cup, 2 tablespoons. Like I can just give that butter, that brown butter flavor. I can oomph that into any baked good that I want to add. Or even, I mentioned I have a kind of like a guide to toasted milk powder on my website, alittlespoon.com, if you are interested in checking that out. You can also add it into like a pan sauce, if you were going to do like the brown butter sage pan sauce that a lot of people really love with like cheese stuffed ravioli and like stuff like that. You can just add this in and give it a little bit extra of that toasted milk powder or that brown butter flavor. And the same thing goes with like topping mac and cheese. Like put it into whatever, crumb topping that you're making, breading that you're making, and it's just going to give a little bit extra flavor. And it's so yummy. It's so yummy. Hi. Hello. This is the first time you've watched me cook on a stream? Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. You had a dream you ran into me in Amsterdam? That would be great. I would love to go to Amsterdam. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the other ingredients that I have in this recipe. So I have, not only do I have my toasted milk powder here, I also add buttermilk powder. And there is a specific reason for that. Actually, 2 reasons for that. I don't have a sweet tooth. Not really. I do like chocolate, but I like dark chocolate. Like I'm not milk chocolate. I'm not super sweet desserts or any of that kind of stuff. It needs to have a little bit of bitterness to it, a little bit of acidity to it, a little bit of spice, heat to it. So something to break up the monotony of just sugar. And so in this recipe, I use bittersweet chocolate, and I also have buttermilk powder. It's not completely necessary to use the buttermilk powder or even the chocolate. Like these could be chipless cookies if you wanted to. You can change it to maybe like a semi-sweet chocolate if you need it on the sweeter side and you don't want to do something that's like up in the 70% of cacao or something like that. You can change that if you want, and you can negate the buttermilk powder if you don't want that. I just wanted something a little extra tangy in the cookies to just make it a little bit more interesting, give it something that was just a little less flat in flavor. And then the kind of nice thing about buttermilk powder, right, is it's got such a high acidity that when it gets mixed with the baking soda in this recipe, it creates just a little bit extra rise and stops spread just that little bit much more. So it kind of has like two different reasons, but it's really not like a big enough deal that you would have a problem with this cookie if you decided that you didn't want to go out and buy that as an extra ingredient and you didn't want it in your cookies. Am I a dark chocolate pepper enjoyer? Do you mean like when dark chocolate is like mixed with like chili kind of a thing? So like, what do you mean? You'll do this next weekend? You don't know if you'd find the powdered milk powder? I've seen it in two different places. It depends on which store you're in. Sometimes it's in the baked good aisle over by like sweetening condensed milk, and then sometimes it's in with like the coffee and where the instant like milk powders and stuff are. If Ragdoll, if you are looking for chocolate bars and you can't find them, you can just use chocolate chips. You can get chocolate chips. I wouldn't worry about it. I like to chop the chocolate just because I think like the little flecks of chocolate and then like the big chunks of chocolate and just having that textural difference in like what they're doing. I really do like that, but chocolate chips are absolutely fine. For me, I like to keep chocolate bars just kind of like stocked in general in my pantry. But if you're doing something that's like a baked good with chocolate in it, like the chocolate chips are going to be fine, or chocolate morsels, or couverture, or whatever you want to call them. If you're doing something that is like relies heavily on texture and flavor of chocolate, then the chocolate bars are where you're going to want to go, because they don't have any of the kind of like shelf stabilizers and like extra emulsifiers and stuff coating them that the chocolate chips do. So like if you're making like a ganache or something like that, then I would suggest that you stick with the chocolate bar. But if you're just adding like chocolate chips into something, or adding just like chocolate chips, like I said, like pieces of it into a baked good, then the chocolate chips are fine. Yes, okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we should be seeing in our pan. So it will clump, okay? It's going to clump. I'd turn your heat down if it's getting like really, really clumpy. You can turn your heat down. You can take your pan off the burner and then break those pieces apart. You want to kind of try to keep it from getting too clumped up and getting like really, really tough. But it will clump. And then I said earlier that the whole milk powder is a little bit trickier because it's just got like extra fat in it. It clumps more than the non-fat milk powder does. And so you kind of have to be a little bit more careful with the whole milk powder than you do with the non-fat milk powder. You've only found powdered milk for infants as of now. That's fine. You can use that. You can use that. As long as it's not like instant formula. If it's instant milk, that's what this is. Whoop. Yoink. Like that's essentially what this is, right? Got a little mommy and daughter on the cover there, on the label. Okay, so I'm starting to see some toasting, and I'm just going to keep scraping and moving it around. Good? Yeah, if you go to like whatever your international aisle is, that's where this one came from. So this one is from the international aisle over by the Maseca, and then this guy came from where my sweetened and condensed milk was in the baked goods aisle. Yeah, if you get worried that you've got like too brown of a color on some of the pieces that are like touching the bottom of your pan, and it looks like, oh, I'm like, get a little, like it's a little too dark, or it's a little too tough or clumped or something like that, don't, just move it off the burner. Just move it off the burner, scrape around without any heat so that it's not, it'll still continue to cook a little bit just because everything is so hot, but it won't continue like cooking the way that it is with whatever is touching that surface. If you take the heat off and you just set it on your counter and scrape until you've got it all broken up, you can go right back to it. And I will say this too, if it does clump and you have a couple pieces that are like, or like a lot of it is getting kind of clumpy, as long as you're not burning it, it's okay. Worst case, you can take this, and once it's cooled, you can put it into a blender and then just blend it up, and you have no more clumps, and it's fine. So like, don't worry too much. It's really just like you don't want it to kind of like be sticking to each other so much that you're only cooking those pieces and you're not cooking whatever is like in between the little, like in the middle of those clumped pieces. Small clumps are fine. Don't worry about that. So you can see like this is already changing color. I say already, we've been talking for about 15 minutes. If you were using the coconut milk powder or the oat milk powder, this would be done. You would be done by now. If you go, and it would be, you want them to be about this color. If you are using them, they are not going to be this dark brown color that I have in this can. If you go to this dark brown color, they will be bitter for the plant-based milk powders. Just keep that in mind. I think if I were going to use another plant-based milk powder, like if I didn't want to use the coconut, because like I understand it would give like that, like an additional flavor that maybe you weren't intending, I think a cashew milk powder would probably be your second best bet for a plant-based milk powder. But you're gonna want it to be this kind of like light, like manila envelope color for the plant-based stuff. And you could, if you really wanted to, this was fine. Like this is a fine color. If you just wanted to stop here and you were like, look, I don't need this to be super intense. Like I just wanted it to be like kind of kissed with that flavor. Then you can go ahead and you can take it off at this color. But I just really prefer it to be kind of as toasted as I can get it. And that's why I cook it for so long. But there is a varying range for sure about, where you like. So honestly, I would tell you that maybe during the course of this, while you're making it, take a little bit out at a time. Throw some on a spoon, let it cool a little bit, taste it. If you're happy with the flavor, just be done. You don't have to go until it's like all the way into this like deep brown color. You've arrived. Welcome. Welcome to the live. Totaled. Who is milking these plants? They are, that's very funny. Actually, what they do is they dehydrate the plants, they grind them down, and then they will dry spray it. So basically what they do is they take the liquid, right? So like if you were gonna make like cashew milk, right? Where you let it hydrate, you take nuts, you take cashew nuts, you hydrate them overnight, and then you blend them, and you, at that point, then you just like strain and you have your cashew milk. So after they've done that process, the people who are making these milk powders, these plant-based milk powders, will then turn around and they'll take that liquid and they will quick dry it. It goes through a nozzle, sprays out into super, super, super fine spray into a warm room, and it gets instantly dehydrated. And then you have milk powders, dry milk powders. dry them down, dry it down. You hydrate and dry and hydrate and dry and hydrate. So it's just like a constant cycle of hydrating things and dehydrating things. Yep. But see now, like I'm starting to get some clumpy pieces. I'm starting to see kind of streaks of these, like this of dark brown, right? And I'm just going, kind of starting to see that. I might turn this down just a little bit. I also have, for those of you who are interested, and if you really want to have like an interesting tasting cookie that is still good, but definitely more interesting than like the traditional chocolate chip cookie, which is kind of what I'm going for here. They do also sell goat milk powder. Again, this is from Walmart, or at least my Walmart. You may or may not have it at your local one. And it is also, you can toast it. You can toast it. The nice thing about toasting goat milk powder too is that it kind of takes down the like goat milk, like the chèvre flavor, a little bit. So it's like a little bit more muted and mellowed, and it can be quite nice. There's all sorts of stuff. I love it. I love it. But it's just like I immediately can get this brown butter flavor. It's shelf stable. So for anybody who is wondering, once I've done this, I don't like need to use it in 2 weeks. It lasts as long as your milk powder would normally last. So I will dump like an entire can into my pan, toast the whole thing off, and then dump it right back into the can once it's cooled. And I just look at that expiration date for how long I can use it, because it doesn't change it. Does anybody have any questions? If you were, I can add this too. If you are using a recipe that specifically needs you to have like melted butter, right? And you're not going to be like, creaming butter for cookies or anything like that. If you are going to be using melted butter, you can, or like they want you to use brown butter and that's supposed to remain melted when you're using it. You can just toss in some regular milk powder with while you are making your browned butter, and it will just, again, add extra milk solids in. So if you really did want this to be like a single-use kind of thing, and you were using like brown butter in its truest like form, then you can just take some regular milk powder and toss it in. You're gonna put it into the pan about, like once it starts to really foam up, when you're making brown butter, you'll notice like it gets like really foamy on the top. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go ahead and you're gonna toss that milk powder in about that point. So everything's melted. It started to really kind of like foam, and you're gonna notice the milk solids have dropped to the bottom. The extra milk solids will get added in, and then you can go ahead and just kind of do it all in one pan. I guess another. Think, is there anything else that I can add to this? You can add this into any baked good that you want. I really like to put it into banana bread. I also really like to put toasted milk powder into ice cream. No churn or like full on like making your custard ice cream base. It's really good in ice cream. You can put it, I believe, up to a quarter cup in anything that you want without it super affecting the texture. But I prefer to sit somewhere around like 2 tablespoons, which is about, I think it's like 12 grams, it's like 2 tablespoons. Oh, coffee. Coffee's a great idea. I would tell you to, yes, break up any big clumps. I would tell you to break them up, yes. And this is about done. This is about where I want it. So we can set this aside and we can start working on the cookies now if you guys want. How is everybody doing that is making this at home? Are we about at this color? Are we past this color? Are we not yet to this color? How are we doing? It smells really good in my house right now. If you have, Shauna, if you have really big clumps, but this is the color that you're at, I would tell you just to take it off the burner and set it aside. And once it's cooled, you can stick it into a blender, and then the blender will take care of all those clumps for you. Yours is good, a nice golden brown. Yours needs a tad longer. Okay. Well, I'm happy with this color, but I'm just gonna keep going until Lindsay is done. Little less? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go until everybody says they're done, or I see that this starts to get a little too dark for my taste, and then I will go from there. You wish the smell could go through your phone? Yeah. This would be a good one. This would be a good one for you to experience. Smell-o-vision, exactly. Right. And then that's a perfect. Cool. So for those of you who are done with this, what I would tell you to do is take out the amount that you need for the recipe and put it on something that's flat. So like grab a paper plate or just a plate from your house and take it out, separate it from your hot pan and put it onto a plate. It'll cool faster and be ready for the recipe. Okay. Oh, bye, Mom. My mom's in here talking. She's going on a cruise. Bye, have fun. Yeah, I have been told that I talk about toasted milk powder too much, but it's immediate flavor. You can cook it in bulk. It's shelf stable, and this is so much easier than like browning butter every time. And a lot of recipes will have you brown butter and then put it in the refrigerator for 30 to 45 minutes so that it can like reharden, and then you can use it to actually to cream your butter and your sugar together, as is typically how you create the texture for like your chocolate chip cookies and stuff like that. So I'm like, look, I can just make this and then have this in bulk and not have to make brown butter and then put it in my refrigerator. Like it takes almost the same amount of time. I might as well have a bulk object here or a bulk ingredient here that I can just use at any point, and then I don't have to do that every time because that takes just as long. It is a game changer. And I wish that you didn't have to make it. I wish that you could go to the store and just buy it, but that's impossible. So we make do. And I will keep promoting this for as long as I can, for as long as I breathe. It's so good. Okay. It is straight umami. Are we coming up on a good color, Lindsay? How are we feeling? Okay, you think you're good. Okay, we're gonna turn this off. Okay, I'm gonna set this down. I'm gonna move this out of the way because I no longer need it. Okay. And then I'm going to grab, just like I said, I'm gonna grab a plate. I'm going to put the appropriate amount of toasted milk powder for this recipe. I'm using 20 grams. Oh, hey, 20 grams is 2 tablespoons. What do you know? So I'm going to do that. And then I'm just going to scoop it out. I've got my, my scale here, my kitchen scale. Oop, almost. Okay. So that's all I need. I'm going to spread it out on my plate a little bit. She hot or toasty? And then the surface is going to pull the heat from this. And because it's so spread out, it'll cool even faster. So that's what you want. Guys, this is going to be a really fast stream today. Whoop. I did not know she was plugged in. Where is she? Let's see. Okay. Grab your mixers. By now, your butter should be essentially the perfect temperature. Yeah, Shark Tank. If I could, I would. I don't even know where to begin on that one, but I 100% think that it should be a product. I'm gonna lose out on a lot of money by telling people about this and not doing something. Okay, move out. We're gonna start bringing in some of our other ingredients. I have 2 eggs. We have our toasted milk powder. We've got the butter that we already measured out earlier. I've got some vanilla extract. Nielsen Massey is like S tier. They're so good. I like to use their products for almost all of the extracts and flavorings that I use. We need some sugar, some brown sugar. You can use, depending on, I guess, like how much spread you want, or how much of the molasses flavor you want, dark or light brown sugar. Either will be fine. If you use dark brown sugar, it will spread a little less than if you use light brown sugar. So it's up to you on what you want to do there. We've got granulated sugar. We've got some baking soda. Yes, I keep my baking soda in a ginormous container because I also use it for cleaning. And then some all-purpose flour. Let's go ahead and get our sugar and our butter going together. You want me to put it closer here? Okay. All right, we're gonna, yeah, I do, because I want to make sure that we're talking about creaming butter. Oop. Okay, let's move this so that you guys can get a good view from the camera. Okay. Okay, so how did I discover toasted milk powder? Honestly, I think I saw somebody using it. I want to say it was in a baked good recipe, but I want to say that they were using it in like the frosting. And I was like, oh, we can do better than this. Like it doesn't have to just be frosting. Like let's think of all of the ways that we can use this conceptually. And so I started adding it into my baked goods after doing research on milk powder in general, and was immediately like sold. And now I live and breathe toasted milk powder. Carrie Lore goes crazy. Yeah. No. Okay. Somebody in chat just said Chuck got a sunburn and it made Carrie think about toasted milk. He doesn't toast, he burns though. See, that's scorched milk powder. That'd be incorrect. Can you use a hand mixer? Yes. Yes, you can use a hand mixer. This is not an ingredient. This is not like doing brioche or something like that. This is just cookies. So cookies, brownies, any of that kind of stuff. Yes, hand mixers. Absolutely. Love scorched. Okay, we're gonna add our butter in. Let's see, let me do this. You can see if I press, It goes down just a little bit, but I'm not like, just a little bit of pressure. You can see that I'm making like a fingerprint, but it's not smooshing like all the way through the butter. That's about like, for feel wise and visual wise, that's what you're looking for. Okay, so let's knock these into here to get that going. Okay, we're gonna add our sugar in. Okay. You're looking for about 3/4 of a cup of packed brown sugar, which is about 165 grams. It is a big bag of sugar. I shop at Costco. That is where I get all of my stuff. I have a 15-pound bag of King Arthur all-purpose flour. Okay, we got some packed brown sugar. That's also going in. Okay. And then 50 grams or 1/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. I like to use unrefined sugar. So like, I guess what you would consider like sugar in the raw, like raw sugar. But I specifically will look for unrefined sugar because a lot of the times if you're doing like a sugar in the raw, it's actually refined sugar that they put a little bit of molasses into. That's what light and dark brown, like all brown sugars, are sugar that has then had molasses added back into it. For refined sugars tend to cause more spread. So you get a lighter cookie, but you also get more spread in your cookies. The unrefined sugar has a higher acidity than refined sugar does. So I find that it does kind of like will puff and it'll give it a little bit like denser of a texture. So I prefer unrefined sugar. You can also use like a demerara or a turbinado or something like that. The only difference being that the granularity in those sugars, because they have larger sugar crystals, they will not dissolve as well into the cookie. So that chill time is absolutely necessary. This cookie calls for a 24-hour chill time. It's a minimum of 6 hours. If you like just can't wait, 6 hours would be the minimum that I think that you could do this and get the same flavor and texture advantage. 24 hours is the best texture, but the same flavor as about the 6 hour mark. But if you are using like a demerara or a turbinado sugar so that you have that unrefined sugar, you are going to have to wait the 24 hours because those sugar crystals are going to need time to hydrate and dissolve into the cookie dough. Okay, let's get this started. Brown sugar is your favorite sugar? Mine too. Did my parents let me eat the batter? Yes. I still do that. I know you shouldn't. I still do it. Do I like light or dark better for this recipe? For this, I'd probably prefer dark. It's got a little bit more molasses, which makes it a little more acidic, which means there's a little less spread to your cookies. It makes them a little more dense. I know like raw eggs and then like raw flour are not good for you to eat, but I 100% I eat dough and batter, like lick the bowl kind of a thing, or lick the spatula. This is going to mix for 2 to 3 minutes at least, probably no more than 5. I really want this to mix enough to incorporate a lot of air into the sugar and the butter. So it will actually change color into like a really light color, and it's going to soften the texture, and it will actually increase in volume, or look like it increases in volume, because we're adding all of the air into it as we whip it, beat it. We have a beater, we're beating it. Hi, cooking stream, yeah. Is there a hype train? No. For those of the people who are watching this on YouTube, we're also on my husband's Twitch channel right now on the Twitch platform, and people are donating, and it's creating a hype train. Guys. Thank you, everybody. Oh yeah, there's a bunch. There are a bunch of different things that all of our ingredients do, and how they affect the texture, the spread, the flavor of your cookies. I definitely, like when I was testing this out and I was messing around with just even like the sugar ratio of granulated sugar to brown sugar, or like white sugar to brown sugar. I tried like a 50-50 split, and they spread like a lot. And just changing up to like a 3/4 of a cup, right? So you want like a cup of sugar, but changing it into that brown sugar gave it a richer flavor. They spread less. So I could then use less flour and have a softer textured cookie, because you don't have so much flour kind of absorbing all that moisture. There's a lot of stuff to work with when it comes to this kind of thing. And then the same thing later when we're gonna add our eggs in a couple minutes, and I've got 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. And so that yolk, again, gives it just using the yolk gives it a richer, denser texture. The white is what causes it to puff and stay light. And then the yolk is what gives it a denser texture. And so instead of using or creating a recipe that uses 2 eggs, I created a recipe that had a higher ratio of yolk in your kind of like egg mix. And it creates just a denser cookie, which I prefer. So, can your wife teach us how to make Girl Scout cookies? They've reached Bitcoin prices. Yeah, Girl Scout cookies. I would love to make I guess I only know the old name of the cookies, though. I have not purchased a Girl Scout cookie in quite a while, so I don't know what the new names are. But I actually know one of them. Now they're caramel delights, right? With the coconut and the caramel and the chocolate. I would love to make those. And I would also love to make the tagalongs, which is that like shortbread biscuit with the caramel, or with the peanut butter, sorry. Shortbread biscuit with the peanut butter enveloped in chocolate. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna turn this down. What I want to do now is I'm going to just scrape the sides of the bowl down to make sure that all of the ingredients are properly incorporated. It's really important when you're doing something that involves a batter or a dough to, not constantly, but every now and then, to scrape down the sides as you're adding ingredients in, to make sure that they're all really mixing well, so that you don't have like a whole bunch of sugar down at the very bottom that never got mixed in with the flour or anything like that. So we're gonna just lift this up. You can see, so this is where we started. I guess, let's see if we can move this a little bit more in frame. This way? Yeah. So you can see where we started. So this did not get fully incorporated in. But then I've got this just really light, fluffy texture. This is what you want when you are creaming your butter in your sugar. This is what you want to see. And this is about done. I'm going to go past the camera. There you go. There you go on this side. Just make sure that we're scraping down the sides. We're checking the bottom underneath to make sure that it is fully incorporated. Okay, I'm gonna just scrape this down too a little bit to make sure that that gets mixed in. Okay. I'm gonna add in my eggs now. Is she using baby formula? It's not formula, it's just dried milk powder. Okay, you've noticed when baking gluten-free, they tend to spread out a lot more. So part of that is a protein problem. So actually adding your milk powder will help. Even if you're just adding milk powder, like if you don't want to do toasted, adding milk powder will help. Because you're losing some of the protein, or you're losing a lot of that gluten, right? Because you're cooking gluten-free, and gluten creates that structure that holds everything together. And so you're essentially getting rid of it. Now, in a lot of cases, the one-to-one is great when you're making like cakes and things like that. But yes, it's going to spread because you don't have as much structure as you would if you were using flour that had gluten in it. So you're going to want to add something that has more protein. And so finding a dry ingredient to add in that won't affect the ratio of liquid to solid in your recipes is a great thing to mess with. So I would tell you yes to dark brown sugar, but I would also tell you to just experiment with milk powder in general. Okay. Let's start doing the rest of our stuff. I'm gonna measure out my dry ingredients and get them into a bowl. Normally I would do that while the butter and the sugar were creaming, but we were chatting, so we're a little bit out of order, but it'll be fine. Ugh. Okay, so when you are doing flour, when you are scooping and measuring out your flour, when you are making baked goods, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your flour is aerated. And the best way to do that is to scoop, pour, and then level off your flour before it goes into a bowl. So let's see. We need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, which is essentially 255 grams of flour. And what I'm going to do is I've got my cup here. For those of you who are imperial and not just, I usually would just dump it in and just like have the kitchen scale on and to weigh it. But we're gonna go ahead and do it both ways. So basically what you do is you scoop and you're gonna just kind of pour in. I'm kind of aerating the flour in here, scooping, and then gently pouring on top. Okay. And then leveling. And so that's one cup. It'll generally be between 125 and 128 grams per cup. If you scoop right into your flour and don't kind of like gently pour in like this, in some cases, I've seen people will like aerate the flour and then scoop into it. But even that, honestly, I can't even really condone that, because what happens is when you're scooping like this, you're compressing. And so you can end up with sometimes more than 30% of what you're supposed to have in a recipe. And that's how things just get like really dry because you've got far too much flour. So you definitely want to make sure that you are like aerating, kind of scooping and pouring, and then leveling off your flour. Okay. We need 2, let's see. Oh, it is a 1/4 cup of milk powder. Okay, so I need 2 tablespoons of my buttermilk powder. That's the one that's 20 grams. The toasted milk powder is 25 grams. I apologize. It's a 1/4 cup. I'm going to have to go and get that out of my, get the rest out of my pan. Okay. Okay. So we got 2 tablespoons of our buttermilk powder. Just a little bit more. There you go. And then got 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I keep walking in front of a separate camera. Keep seeing the top of my head. Okay. 255 grams for the flour. Yeah. Oh, that mine was about 250. That's okay. That's okay. Does anybody have any questions who's making this with me today? Are we all doing okay? We're good? Okay. 1 teaspoon. And then we need to add our toasted milk powder into our dry ingredients. I 100% did not take out as much as I needed to. It's supposed to be a 1/4 cup. And this is already cooled, so we're still in a good place. Okay. Whew. Okay. So those are our dry ingredients. What goes in the flour? I'm just adding all of my dry ingredients to the bowl. So I've got flour, I've got the toasted milk powder, the buttermilk powder, and baking soda. And then I am also going to add, I'm going to add the salt in here as well. So I need a 1/2 tablespoon of salt. Sometimes I feel like people add salt into their baked goods just because they feel like they need to have it in there, or like the recipe. Like people would be like question the recipe instead of actually like tasting it and adding as much salt as you need. Okay. Got our salt. And now I'm going to just give it a little mix. So I want to make sure, yeah, salt enhances the flavor of everything. And a lot of times I find baked goods are like undersalted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just incorporate all of this together. As I was saying before, right, we're scraping down the sides of our bowl. We're making sure that everything is getting really incorporated here. But the last step, which is dumping this into my, my wet goods here, happens super fast, right? So like all of the mixing kind of happens on the front end with the sugar and the butter and maybe sometimes eggs. Like you put time and effort into that. And then once the dry ingredients go in, you're just very, very quickly mixing it in. As soon as it's fully incorporated, you're done. Like there's not a lot of mixing. You want to keep the air in there. You want to make sure that we are not kind of like knocking everything down and making it stodgy and dense. So as soon as the dry ingredients kind of go in and are fully mixed, you stop it. Okay. So we have to do all of that kind of mixing to get everything incorporated to make sure that you don't have like clumps of different ingredients. You do that kind of on the front end here. So you're mixing in one bowl separately, you're mixing in another bowl separately, and then you quickly add them together. We did not use the vanilla extract or the eggs yet. We've not gotten that far. I'm actually going to chop my chocolate right now. So again, that can just kind of get added at the end. I've got the butter and the sugar where I want them to go. And I don't want to keep mixing them until I'm fully ready for it. So we're going to do our chocolate. So I've got some bars of chocolate here. If you want to use chocolate chips, you can use chocolate chips. That is also fine. I prefer using bittersweet chocolate. Again, not a sweet tooth person. If you want, here, let's talk a little bit, I guess while I'm chopping, we can talk a little bit about different labels for milk. Milk chocolate, dark chocolate, bittersweet chocolate, all of that. So you guys know what you're getting into when you're using them and trying to decide which chocolate you want to use. Like there. So if you're using milk chocolate, you've got some milk solids plus sugar plus cocoa. Your cocoa solids. So that is about 40% cocoa, okay, or cacao when you have your milk chocolate. If you're going to do a semi-sweet and you're moving out of your milk chocolate, then you're going to have somewhere around 50%. Then when you go into your bittersweet, I guess it's like 50 to 60 or so, you're moving from about 65 up through about, I'm guessing like 75% is a kind of a good frame of reference. A lot of chocolate, like it's very funny the way that like Lindt and Ghirardelli and some of the other companies will like label and give percentages where it's like 72% or 60 or 63 and all those kinds of things. There's really just like a range, and everybody likes to have their own like signature number kind of a thing. But generally, if you're like somewhere in the 60s, somewhere in the 70s, it kind of like goes up from there, right? And so once you pass your bittersweet and you're kind of into just like your really, really, really dark chocolates, it's still considered bittersweet chocolate, right? Because you have essentially like milk chocolate, dark chocolate. It's still up there, but once you're out of your milk chocolate spectrum and you're going into the dark chocolate, so you're going into your semi-sweet and your bittersweet, then you no longer have the milk solids in your chocolate. That's kind of what the difference is you no longer, it's not milk chocolate, it doesn't have milk solids in it. And so it will just get a more intense and bitter flavor the higher that number goes. And you will see recipes out there that do also request like unsweetened chocolate, and that is just straight cocoa. Like there's no, or cacao, there is no sugar in that. The sugar is the other ingredient in these. So you have cacao and you have sugar. And as that cacao number goes up, you have less sugar, which is why it is more bitter. I am using a mixture of bittersweet and semi-sweet. I've got more bittersweet than semi-sweet because I prefer the bitterness. I have a bunch of sugar in a cookie. I don't want it to be just like a straight sugar, but you go with whatever you prefer. If you have a sweet tooth, you could 100% make these cookies with milk chocolate if you wanted to. Do whatever you want. Put some white chocolate into it. The sugar from the dough balances the bitterness of the pure chocolate. Yep. That is exactly right. Should have used a bigger cutting board. Let me do this a little bit. Now you'll notice like I've got a bunch of these little like chocolate bits here, and then I have some bigger pieces. I like that like textural and flavor difference because these guys will melt like right into the dough, and then the bigger chocolate chunks are gonna give you those like really nice pools of chocolate in your cookie. There is a lot of chocolate in this cookie. That was done intentionally for spread. And because I like it that way. But basically, when you mix the chocolate in, right, and you're mixing it into that dough, the more chocolate that you have in a cookie, the less it will spread. Because the chocolate gets like really, really hot, right? And it will cook in like I'm trying to explain how this works. It's a surface area thing again, right? So like if you have really thick parts of like spots where there's like just dough in the cookie and there's no chocolate, it's gonna take longer to cook through that. Whereas if you have a lot of chocolate mixed in and there's like kind of thin ribbons of dough around the chocolate pieces, that will cook faster, and so it reduces spread. So if you go for like a chipless version of this, just be prepared that it is gonna spread more than if you had all of the chocolate in it. Toffee bits, yep. And you absolutely could change out the mix-ins. So like if you wanted to do like half chocolate, half toffee, go for it. You can absolutely do that. Yeah, there's a lot of chocolate. Now I'm gonna do the influencer thing, and I'm going to set aside some of the pieces of chopped chocolate, and they're not going to go into the bowl with my dough, so that I can kind of place them on top of the scoops, so you get those like nice big pieces of chocolate that are on the top of your cookie scoops, of your dough scoops. Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of set a couple of these aside. So I have them to put on top of the cookies once I scoop them out. The first time that I tested this recipe out, I put the dough that was like in this bowl, in the mix bowl, I put it directly into the refrigerator to chill, and then when I went to go scoop out the scoops, I broke my cookie scoop. And I actually broke like 2 cookie scoops trying to scoop out of the refrigerated dough. So I learned my lesson. And now I scoop right after I'm done mixing, and then the scoops go into the refrigerator. These. And get this scooped in. How are my people doing who are cooking? Chef snack time. Need to make sure the chocolate is a good quality. I call that the chef tax. I get to taste everything that I'm making while I'm making it. It's just to make sure that everything is salted correctly, flavored correctly, right? Make sure you don't need anything else. You're supposed to constantly taste your food. It's the chef tax. Absolutely. One more bar to chop. Okay. Cool. Oop. Pardon the noise. Searching for cookie scoops that are stuck into tongs. Oh, that's loud. Okay. You're in the kitchen, but you're packing and not cooking. That's okay. You're here with us today. Okay. So now we basically have everything ready to go. We're all set. The last of our ingredients. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to my creamed butter and sugar, and I'm going to take care of my eggs. And now again, I said we are using 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. Chef tax is a thing too, right? Yeah, I think so. I think so. Huh? Sous chef, oh, I didn't see that. Yeah, sous chef tax, yes. Yeah, if you are any part of the process, you get to enjoy. Okay, so let's go ahead and crack open our egg, which apparently doesn't want to work today. That's fine. Okay. 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. I'm gonna get a separate bowl. Okay, so there's my 1 egg. You can do this a couple different ways. You can just dump the whole thing in if you wanted to. Oh. Or you can kind of scoop from thing to thing until you have just the yolk left in your egg. Sometimes I'll just because honestly, it's all about whether or not you care about how dirty your hands are. I will just dump it onto my hand and then just kind of let all of the white fall through my fingers until I have just the yolk in my hand. And then that's fine. When you crack your eggs, please crack your eggs on a flat surface. So you're not pushing any cracks, any shards of shell up into your egg. Cracking them on a flat surface will break that without kind of pushing anything up into the membrane. Flat surface egg crackers rise up. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna get started. We're gonna finish out this recipe. Okay, so we're gonna turn this back on. I'm gonna dump my egg and egg yolk in. Okay, and we're gonna let this mix. I want this to come back to the same visual as it was when it was just the butter and the sugar. So that egg is gonna get incorporated and it's also gonna get a little bit of air back into it. And it will look the same, and it doesn't take very long. It takes like a minute to get back to that. And then we're gonna need, I think it's 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So 10 milliliters. Okay. I'm gonna add my vanilla in. Goes. Okay. And again, I'm going to take my spatula here. I'm going to make sure, because I'm seeing a little bit of egg. It didn't make it down into the bowl. I'm going to make sure that we are fully incorporating, scraping down the edges, the sides of the bowl. There we go. In. There we go. And this is about the texture that I want it to be. So now we're going to add in our dry ingredients that we already prepped. Okay, you'll see that this is back to being fluffy, that same texture that we had. Where are you? Where do you have the camera? Is the camera on the toasted milk powder? Is it? I can't see. Okay. You'll see this is just as fluffy as it was. So we kind of added the egg. Everything kind of looked a little soupy and a little bit weird, but as that egg emulsifies and incorporates into the dough, it comes back to this fluffy texture. That's where we want it. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my flour in. And we're going to add it on a low setting, a little at a time, because I'm sure a lot of you know if you add flour too quickly, it will puff back in your face. And we don't want that to happen. So we're going to go slow, a little at a time, on a low setting. Thoughts on extract versus paste? I also have, oh my God, I almost said tomato paste. I also have vanilla bean paste. It is more expensive. I use it when I am doing delicate goods, delicate baked goods that I want to visually see all of those specks. I love vanilla bean paste, but because it is so expensive, I use extract in cases where you're not going to see the specks, and I use paste in cases where I do want to visually see those little vanilla bean specks. Okay. And then that's it. This is done. Okay, I'm going to take the beater off. It's incorporated. Literally like that mixed for, what, 15 seconds maybe, once everything was in. You just want to get it incorporated. You do not want to keep mixing. Okay, I'm gonna do this. You will probably, I don't condone this. Please don't do this. I'm totally gonna taste the batter. Please, I cannot fully condone it, but nor can I stop you from doing this at home. Please, I don't want to be held liable for anything that you do in your own home. True. I will, you know what? I'm not going to eat this when the stream is over. Wow. I'm not. I'm saying it verbally out loud. I do not. This is raw flour and raw eggs. And you are taking a risk if you eat it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of scrape down the sides again. Same thing. Make sure that everything underneath kind of gets pulled around on top and that everything is fully incorporated. I don't see any spots of flour. I don't see any spots of just butter and sugar. And then I'm going to dump my chocolate chips in. And I'm going to mix until that is fully incorporated. And we're just gently, whoops, I said gentle and then I flicked a bunch of chocolate out. We're just gently folding everything in. You don't want to like really mash into your dough because we want to keep that air in here, right? So we're kind of just swirling around the bowl and then scooping from the bottom up. Okay. Looks pretty good. And now we scoop. Okay. So you can do little guys. I think I said to use a 24, which I never remember where they are on these things. I think it's inside of it. On the, yeah, here. This is a 50. Okay, so this is a number 50 cookie scoop. This one is a 24. They hold different amounts. This is about 1 tablespoon. This is about 2.5 tablespoons. I prefer the bigger sizes to the little one, but I'm gonna do both just for funsies today. The smaller they are, the faster they heat up, the faster they cook through, the less they spread. We'll do a little bit of both because I am 100% going to be freezing some of this dough so that I can then bake them right from the freezer. They bake really well right from the freezer. You're just gonna add an extra minute onto your cook time. If you do check out, like are on the actual website, if you're on at alittlespoon.com and you're looking at this recipe on the website, there's an FAQ that talks about chill time. And I have like brief descriptions of what was going on with the dough, what was going on with the cookie once I baked it after certain times. I think I did a 20-minute, a 2-hour, a 6-hour. I want to say there was like an 12 or an 18-hour and then a 24-hour. So you can decide for yourself how long you really want to chill it. Minimum for flavor for me would be 6 hours. If you want a perfect, really hydrated, not grainy, dense texture, 24 hours is in my opinion a minimum. She just informed me she's a risk taker and she ate the batter. What did she think? What did your daughter think? We'll risk salmonella for cookie batter. Okay, just gonna keep scooping. Go. Do a little bit of each. Sometimes I just want a little cookie, right? So these are going to get put into my refrigerator. I'm going to cover them up with some cling film, some cling wrap, and I'm going to put them in my refrigerator to chill. And then you're going to want to bake them when you go to bake them. Because we have so much chill time, I'm just going to, I guess, end the stream. I can do a drop bake if you guys really want to do a drop bake right from this, but it will spread because it's not chilled. You're going to cook them for the little guys here, I'd say about 7 minutes. You're going to want to be at, let's see, 375 or 190 degrees Celsius when you preheat your oven. And then you're going to put the cookies in. And once the cookies are in and the door is shut, you're going to drop your temperature down to 350 or 177 degrees Celsius. And you're going to let them cook. The little ones will cook for about 7 minutes. The bigger ones will cook for like 9 to 10 minutes. If you're bringing them from the freezer, like I said, just add a minute or so onto that cook time. This recipe should make, I think it's between 22 and 24 cookies. If you're using your number 24 cookie scoop, the big guy, bigger guy. Okay. They do spread. So when you go to bake them, you're going to want to put them, you're going to want to have at least an inch and a half or about 3 centimeters in between all of the cookies so that when they spread, they don't run into each other. And then here, we're going to do this, right? So this is our influencer trick, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some chocolate kind of right on top of these guys. And a nice big piece of chocolate melted. Okay. Using a tablespoon. Okay. What can I use if you don't have a cookie scoop? Okay. So a tablespoon would work. You're gonna want them to be relatively the same size. So what I would tell you to do you have a kitchen scale by any chance, Sparkle? I know it's kind of a weird thing. If you don't have a cookie scoop, you probably don't have a kitchen scale, but just out of curiosity, do you have a kitchen scale? Because I would tell you, you can make them uniform in size if you're just weighing, if you put this down, like a tray down or a plate on top of a kitchen scale or something like that, you can just use a kitchen scale to weigh them out so that you know that they're the same size. You do? Okay, yeah. Well, then just put a plate down. Grab yourself like a tablespoon or a spoon of any kind, really. And just weigh them. Here, let's do this for you. So I can tell you about how much each of them are. Get our chocolate pieces on top. Yes. Okay. So let's zero this guy out. Okay. So was that zeroed? Yeah. You're looking at about 45 grams per cookie. In the number 24 scoop, so in the 2.5 tablespoon scoop. If you're going for my little guys here, and you're using a number 50 scoop, that's about 28 grams. So you can just weigh them out, and then they'll all be the same size, give or take. Perfect. Cool. I'm not a sweets person, but I think I want a cookie now. These cookies are good cookies. And that's it. So I'm going to cover these up. I'm going to go in the fridge. And then tomorrow I bake. Should I do a drop cookie? Ooh, it would take time. How about we end the stream and I do a drop cookie with the people who stay, like we end the video, the YouTube video kind of a thing? Huh? A drop cookie is, I didn't rest it in the refrigerator. So like drop biscuits, you literally make the batter and drop it onto a tray and then put it in the oven. Sorry, I apologize for that insider use of language. Huh? Because I was thinking about baking them for the people who are gonna stay not in the video and who are like in the live if they wanted to actually watch that. They are going to spread a lot more because they are not chilled. But we can hang out for like another couple minutes and maybe stick them into a freezer for a couple minutes and then bake them. But it'll be like, if anybody wants to stick around for another 15 to 20 minutes, I can get these a little bit cooled, a little bit chilled, and then get them into the oven. Yeah? If I did it right now, they would spread pretty thin because it's warm in here. These are warm, and none of that butter has solidified at all. So like the butter is really soft, right? So it's immediately going to start spreading when it hits that oven. If I stick these in the refrigerator and I chill them for a minimum of 20 minutes, that butter starts to solidify, and it takes longer for it to melt and spread out. So the cookies will spread less. So it's kind of one of those things where like you kind of minimum want to chill cookie dough for 20 minutes unless it was intended to be a drop cookie, which is right from your mixer onto a pan and into the oven. There are some cookies that are like that. But yeah, these are intended to chill for 24 hours, mainly for texture and also for flavor. But I don't mind. I don't mind making some cookies with you guys after this. We end the video. We can just keep the live going. Oh, this is a good question. Can you freeze for 6 hours and then bake, or do they need to go into the fridge? They need to go into the fridge. If you freeze them, it's going to stop the liquid from hydrating the flour because it's all going to be frozen. So they do need to chill, but then you can move them into your freezer afterward. Am I willing to mail them out? No, but if you really want, I could make more of these for GCX if you're going to GCX. Cookie reveal tomorrow. I can take a picture of them tomorrow and post a picture in my Instagram. Rip my fridge space. Oh no, that's why I like scooping them out like this, because they can be like really next to each other. So you can do, if you need to, you can do like 2 smaller trays and then like even have them in like smaller places or like a plate or something like that. So they can like kind of sit on top of something instead of using like a quarter sheet like this, because this can be pretty big. So like if you wanted to use kind of like an 1/8 sheet or even just plates, that would work too. You're also limited on fridge space. Oh, I'm sorry, friends. If you really want to, trying to think about what you could do. If you really wanted to, you could chill the dough in the bowl. Just stick that into the refrigerator, chill for the 24 hours. But like I said, it will break your cookie scoop if you do not let that come back up to temperature. So what you're essentially going to do, and it adds extra steps, right, is if you chill the dough to save your fridge space, chill it, take it back out, let it come back up to temperature for 15, 30 minutes, then do your scooping. If it still feels like it's a little bit difficult to scoop, just let it sit a little bit longer to kind of come back to temperature, to room temperature a little bit. Finish your scoops, but then they're gonna have to go back into the refrigerator for 20 minutes so that that butter can go back to a chilled temperature, and then you can bake from there. So it's a little bit of a back and forth. If you need that fridge space, you absolutely can do that. It's just some extra steps. Okay, well, I guess let me go ahead and end our YouTube video. Do I just keep going? Huh? Do the outro? Oh, God. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for anybody who stumbled upon this video and decided that they wanted to make chocolate chip cookies with me that use toasted milk powder and buttermilk powder and semi-sweet chocolate chips, so that you don't have just the plain old chocolate chip cookies that you're getting from the back of the bag of the morsels. They're a little bit more interesting, a little bit more tangy. You got that great brown butter flavor that we've learned about with the toasted milk powder. And I promise you these will be some of the most delicious chocolate chip cookies that you have had. And I really appreciate you coming on this journey with me and cooking through this recipe with me. These are gonna go chill overnight. These will get put into an oven and baked off tomorrow after we have let them rest. And I will make sure that they end up somewhere on social media. You can see the end result at some point from there. Maybe I'll post something in a comment under this video so that you can see it. You can find me at alittlespoon.com. That is my food blog. I talk a lot about all of the sciencey stuff. So if you really liked some of the science that you heard today, we were talking about gluten structure, we were talking about rise, we were talking about the spread and hydration and all sorts of fun stuff. If you liked hearing that, if it helped you better understand Cookies, I also talk about those things a lot in my other recipes, and not just with baked goods. So you get a lot of that information. And hopefully it will help you kind of take some of that information into your cooking in future endeavors. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. I want people to feel comfortable in their kitchens. I want them to better understand the food that they're working with. So that's kind of what the blog is about. I would love it if you saw those recipes, went into those recipes, tried those recipes. If you do try a recipe and you really liked it, give it however many stars you think it deserves. Make a comment. If you have questions, you can always comment on my recipes. I do check my comments. I will reply to you if you have questions. Same thing goes for my Instagram. You can find me at _little_spoon. So a little spoon with underscores in the spaces. Recipes are also posted there. I don't do the, hey, here's a picture, comment this and I'll send you the recipe, or here's the picture. If you want to make this, you have to go to my website. I do like to have picture posts, but I also like to put the recipes right there. So people kind of don't have to travel back and forth. It's just something that I do. I want people to have access to these recipes from wherever they can. And I like to share a lot of behind the scenes and kind of just like what's going on and what I'm up to in my Instagram stories. So you can kind of follow along and not just see recipes, but kind of see other aspects of what I'm up to. Thank you very much for joining me. If you liked this video, you can like and subscribe to this channel as well. We do these cook-alongs once a month. Next month is going to be on Cinco de Mayo. I'm quite excited. And I will have more information on my Instagram for that. If you are watching this video and it is old by now, then you can go find that video, the Cinco de Mayo video, and many others that we have done here today. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.